want to talk to you a little bit about what the presumptions are that might be useful in being able to navigate our way through the extraordinary kind of changes that are coming downstream. This is unlike anything else that any of us have ever done. And so it needs to be approached in quite a different way than how you would typically and classically approach a problem. There are so many uncertainties associated with it, and all of the usual kind of mechanisms for decision making, pros and cons and whatever, come up short in the face of complete uncertainty and rapid change and predictable kind of big breakthroughs that just drive the system off in different directions. And all of these kinds of mechanisms and processes are necessary to break up the old system and allow for the emergence of the new one. And in the process, of course, the new human evolves, and it is kind of those of us who have figured out how to effectively navigate our way through this kind of space that get to be the ones who are the kind of originators and the original kind of denizens of the new world that will arise. But getting from here to there is a whole different deal that, as I suggest, is integral to this process of the emergent new human, and we are becoming someone different than we've been in the past. And a great deal of this hangs on the presumptions that we carry around about what is happening and what is going to happen, because I say it's not predictable in the same way that things are in the past, and you can't make decisions in the same kind of way. And so it is a movement from a kind of a linear, deterministic kind of perspective to one of how do you live, as I've suggested before, in this space that allows you this insulation and this protection, if you will, into all of this uncertainty, and provides you with both physical and psychic support to get from here to there. And of course, in being able to do that, then you start to see the world and you see yourself in a different kind of way, and that then becomes the next big step on the way to the emergence of a new human. And so let me suggest to you a series of presumptions that have been helpful to me in terms of how you look at the world and look at yourself in the middle of all of this. Because I can assure you, I mean, I don't have to tell you all that just looking at the news every day is enough to make you pull what hair you might have left. I don't have much left. But the uncertainty and the craziness and the irrationality of the whole thing, the surrealness of this kind of transition is kind of mind-boggling. It's I keep having to go back to saying, this this doesn't work the way everything else has always worked before, and I got to figure out a new way in which to operate in this space. And the there's a short kind of laundry list of concepts that have been very helpful to me in being able to look into this, over this cliff, with all of the uncertainty associated with it. And the first one that I think is critical in the face of all of this is the presumption that there is a plan for this that is being executed. This is not random. If you think it's all random and it's all just response and people are just doing things because that's what they do, then you've got a really good reason for going to the closest bar and getting drunk or whatever your kind of solution or your out is to this reality, because there is no way to make sense out of that, and it's really easy to see it all, just as I suggest, going over a cliff. And but on the other hand, if you think that there is an organization and a plan to all of this, and there is a process that is being executed, we're suddenly into a really quite different space. And so you need to presume, I think, that this is organized and this is directed and we're going somewhere. Now, there are a couple of corollary kind of presumptions that go with that. And one of them is that this has happened before. We're not the only ones that ever exist on this part of the galaxy or the universe, and in fact, we're only the latest of whole lots of other people or groups or civilizations or planets that have gone through this kind of a process. And so there is a kind of, to some degree, a known kind of process and mechanism and that is being executed here, i.e. the plan. But it is being directed, and there is intelligent direction. And that, of course, raises the question and says, where's that intelligent direction coming from? And at the very least, you could say, if you've done the kind of research and the work that I have done, is that there are very friendly aliens who have been interacting with us and shaping the development and evolution of humanity for a long, long time, literally hundreds of thousands of years. And it's in their interest, and it's in fact, their responsibility to kind of husband this change. And so we're not by ourselves in the middle of all this uncertainty, that there are other kind of sources that we can connect with. And these guys have done this before, and so even though it's very uncertain to us, there's somebody that knows what's going on, and there's a clear kind of process and a direction that's happening. There's a larger kind of notion behind all of this, which says that the universe is benign and it is loving ultimately, and that the whole thing is designed for our success, if you will, most specifically in our individual terms, but also as a species. This is not an open-ended, undirected kind of thing that's going on here. This is part of a common kind of general kind of process that has happened all over this galaxy, at least, that is part of the expanding and increasing consciousness and awareness that is just intrinsic to the whole kind of purpose of all of this being. And so there is this a loving and this kind of supporting nature underneath it all, that is is there and will always be supportive if you access it and you in the right way. And by that I mean, I come to kind of the next point, and that is that karma is real, and that you get out of this whole life and this experience what you put into it. It's almost, in a strange kind of way, a one-to-one relationship, and maybe it's a 1-to-2 relation or 1-to-5 relationship. You get much more out than you put in, but in any case, it's at least you get out of the same kind of stuff that you put in this thing. And so if you're putting in goodness and love and compassion and being helpful and all of these kinds of things, and trusting, and and you've found this place, how to live in this place without fear, then that's what you get out of it. You get guidance, you get support, you get warm fuzzy feelings, all those kinds of things that help it's that, remember I said, it's that operating space that is this insulation and this kind of that gets you through all of this. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with this notion of karma, and that if you are trusting about this, if you believe it's loving, if you are trying to do your best and be helpful to other people and other such things in the middle of this, if you are the shining a light and trying to help others understand and see how you get from here to there in the best way that you know how, all of that then accrues back to not only providing you kind of a direction out of all of this, but it also is a protective, a defensive mechanism, if you will. It's part of the process that keeps you from being consumed by and overwhelmed by and being a product of all of the dystopian kind of stuff that is going on. And you got to look at this also if you buy into some of those other presumptions, is that this is all kind of on schedule. Now, it's not a schedule that we understand necessarily. At best, for most of us, it's pretty fuzzy. We got a sense of the urgency and the quickening that's going on right now, and the fact that we're into kind of the period where it becomes far more critical and volatile and dynamic than it has been in the past. And so you got this sense that you're getting towards in the coming years, some amazing kind of disruptions and changes and disintegration of the old world that allows for the emergence of a new one. And I mean, literally, new countries, new worlds being developed and built and birthed, and new humans evolving. I mean, there's all kinds of things like all this energy coming out of the center of the galaxy and stuff, and it's influencing our DNA. And so there's this combination of things that are all happening at the same time that are all, if you buy into this kind of cluster of concepts, are going in kind of the same direction and helping us all try to get where we're going. You can't do this without, I don't think, a sense of kind of knowing that we've won, that we're going to make it on the back end of this, that we're past the point where there's any big uncertainty about whether humanity is going to make it. There were clear times, a couple of couple dozen years ago and so on, where there was certainly some uncertainty about whether a critical mass were going to come together. But there's all kinds of indications, all unconventional for sure, that all suggest that we passed this threshold. We passed the marker, as Cryon used to say, and other people call it other kind of things. And so we're on the downside of this thing, if you will. I mean, it's still got a it literally is downside because they're going to go down for a while before it starts to turn and go up. But in the large term, we're past the point where we were likely to blow ourselves all up or destroy the planet or all of humanity in the process, which was a pretty real possibility, like I say, a couple of decades ago. And so we're really on the track to success, and you got to believe that. You just really got to believe that this is cool, and and I don't quite understand how this all works. But this is really going to be fun to watch this and see how it goes, because we're going to win, and this is going to be good. And what's going to come out of this, by the way, the last point, is there's a new world that's going to come out of this, and there's at a minimum 1,000 years of peace, and other sources are say 5, 10, 15,000 years of peace. But whatever it is really a new and a different kind of place that is really going to be worth our kind of working our way through all of this and helping to build the base, the essential kind of framework for this new world. Now, those different points, by themselves, individually, might not be particularly compelling to you. And it's hard to, I would say, suggest that to just hang your hat on just one of them, because this is a puzzle, and it's got or a tapestry is more like it, where it has all of these threads that come together, and then there's a picture that comes out of the thing, and you can't just take all of the red threads or all of the blue threads or some other kind of things. You got to have them all, and they all have to come together. And so it's not enough to just say, yeah, there's a plan and it's going to be okay. Because if you don't kind of have the rest of the pieces to the thing, then it really, for me at least, gives you a kind of the uncertainty in you. So and then it's all in your kind of head, and you're trying to kind of justify it. And it reminds me of all of the people in church when I grew up and how they were all justifying and using all of these arguments for what they supposedly believed, and then you saw in their life that they really didn't do all of this kind of thing, but they had that idea in their head, but it didn't kind of manifest itself in their life and how they worked. And so anyway, there is strength to this in the terms of the old kind of example. If you take all these independent single straw, you can easily bend it, or a cane of grass. But if you bind them all together, then there's a lot of strength, and there's synergy about that, and it gives you solidity that tells you where to go. And for me, at least, those are the things that come together and give me a significant sense of comfort and confidence in the process that we're all experiencing here. There are some wild cards about this, and the aliens, and they show up, and new breakthrough technologies, and any number of kind of stuff that you can't think of, that you don't know about, that is to say, and that could hasten and accelerate the whole process, but that I don't know what those are. I think a lot about what they might be, but that's not what, don't bet on the aliens, right? Who knows? Who knows who's going to show up when and how? But I think you can bet on the rest of those kind of concepts when you put them all together. And so I think that that's an interesting kind of, for me at least, a starting point perhaps that you all can add to or have comments about. But that's what I use as the kind of presumptions about how you get from here to there and how this new world emerges. So, what do you think?